that will be lots of demos and okay, that's good. Zoltan is not here. Benedek is here and is recording.
Yes, wait. I don't know if he is recording.
Sorry?
I don't know if Benedek is recording.
Well, I'm sure he's recording.
Oh, it's
Aren't
okay
you?
now. I had a
said, wait a second,
little
please.
problem. It's okay now. I'm recording.
Oh, okay, thank you. Gustavo.
Hey, yeah, Sébastien. Sorry.
What? I don't know why I saw a name and I was like, we need to talk, or what was, there was an issue maybe on GitHub you opened and discussion, I don't know what it was about.
Where the issue that Daniel had fixed, I believe, with the, oh shoot, what was that?
You see?
Yeah, because we had
Oh!
Daniel
No.
fixed it. No,
The Visual Studio issue, no, that was not it.
it wasn't
Okay.
it wasn't the Gulp thing.
The what?
The Gulp where
Oh yeah, maybe it was that was bothering you. Maybe that's it. We asked, oh yes, that's, yeah. Last week we said we need to ask Daniel. Yes, because you said you had fixed it in the branch. We'll see. So first status. What is that? I can't quit Skype. It doesn't work since I'm on Windows 10. Right click, quit Skype. No, still here.
Yeah, Skype's annoying. It does the same for me. It
It
keeps.
used to work. I was always doing that. And
I can't shut it down. It doesn't work.
And this option is just in this menu. It's not in the file menu. It has never been there.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Why did I get this notification?
What was that?
Announce when people enter. Oh, you know, that's the sound from someone else. That's not, yeah, it was, someone was, maybe Jamie, because he's the only one with, sorry Jamie, just please unmute yourself if you have something to say. Or maybe it was Keegan. Okay, status, many things. Guys, I'm back. Um, 6 days ago. So recipe stuff that Daniel will show. Recipe. Sébastien. This is a pull request from last Thursday. What was it about? Yeah, fixing reCAPTCHA v2. And we talked about it, Nick, you were not here also on Thursday. Don't use has text if it's a string. If it's a string, use string.isNolempty. Use has text if it's a shape, for instance. And we merged the pull request and said that I will change or fix it directly. We don't have to ask him to change it. This is recipes. Or import export, recipe import export. This is what? Is it me? Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh, this one is huge. We talked about it on Thursday. I will explain it again because not everyone was there on Thursday and it's important. So Nick, you were not there on Thursday, so you don't know about it. Daniel was there, Zoltan also. So the issue. The issue is, let me think again about the issue. What was the issue? Yes, this guy. So this is a change I did. On 19x. The issue was that if you look at the code here, the SessionLocator was implementing ICacheManager and TransactionManager. What I saw is that while working on the comments module and providing a wrong comment, which was calling transaction.cancel, it was not canceling the transaction. And by debugging, I saw that it actually had two sessions during the request. One was cancelled but didn't have the comment, and the other one had the comment and was not cancelled. And it could not have two sessions because there, in this session locator, which is an I dependency, there is just one session. So somehow two session locator got created. I confirmed by putting a breakpoint in the constructor. So two session locator were created, and I
Unknown
found
participant is now exiting.
I don't know what that is.
I think that's when someone calls in by phone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Maybe there's an option to do that. So there were two session locator created, which is bad, which means also two connections to database created. Every time you will use the transaction manager. And we do that all the time for background tasks, for instance, background services. And most of the time also when you edit stuff and it's invalid. So this could explain that all the messages I will see, some other will see on background transactions, background requests, which will lock the database or create so many connections that the database will have to be, well, the server will have to be restarted to free the connection pool. So this could explain that. And the way I fixed it is by separating the session locator, implementing ICacheManager, which itself will now rely on ITransactionManager. This way, when we resolve session connector, it will resolve a single transaction manager, and when we resolve transaction manager, we'll get the same one. So this one now, the session locator, is just a wrapper around ITransactionManager. And by doing that, I had to change all the unit tests which were registering session locator to now just register ITransactionManager. I marked the session locator. Oh, I forgot to do it. Oh, interesting. So I should do it actually. Mark the, well, I won't do it yet. The 4 should be marked as obsolete because now you're supposed to use TransactionManager.getSession, which is a new one. So it's not breaking. Nothing is broken. All the code will still work. But if you can just use getSession directly from the Transaction Manager, it's better now. I also optimized some code, well, very simple optimizations, which is that the was rollback was useless because the isActive is already doing that. So this is an important change, which should improve the memory consumption. And if you see SQL logs also on background task related to the request, that should fix it. This code has been in production on my sites for the last week, and I haven't seen any issue with that. So I suggest to use that. It will be in 1.9.2 very soon. We'll talk about it later. So that's the change. And you see I'm not using ICacheManager anymore anywhere in the code. I changed to use ITransactionManager directly. This is the only one to use now.
Did this one go into 1.9x?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes, it's already there. And I merged to dev, so dev also has it already. And as I said, sites, so it's safe also. And I'm looking at the logs every day, more than that, for other reasons. So merged, and then, so I see that Jasmine created, merged the dev branch on his admin bootstrap. I hope we'll see some updates soon. So I worked a lot on the Redis modules for many reasons. Because, well, for many reasons. The only reason I worked on Redis is because I love you, and because I migrated Codegoose blog to use Redis instead of the managed cache on Azure, and not just his blog, but our lovely Bertrand too, because he's using the same websites. And also, you might not know it, but this one is also using the blogs, is.net is also using the same solution now. So it just makes more usage of Orchard. That's good. More web blogs. So I migrated everything to Redis because the managed cache is no more supported. You can't create any of them anymore. And I found issues. You know, the issues you find only when you have a multi-tenant site with 200 websites on a single machine. It multiplies by 200 all the issues you can find in one website. So it's very easy to find issues. And I found issues with the Redis connection, which actually shows issues with more components in Orchard. Let me show you. The Redis connection provider. So what I saw is that on this instance, this website, I could see, so the goal of the Redis connection provider is to provide the connection string for Redis on a single tenant, and also to provide the connection to the Redis engine on this single tenant also. And this component is used for the output cache on Redis, for the business cache on Redis, and I assume for anyone who will implement a database cache based on Redis. And what it was doing was wrong. So what I could see in my portal is that I had about 70 connections to the Redis instance, and I actually expected 6 of them. 6 because I have 6 Azure websites, and the implementation was supposed to be, let me show you, connection provider. So there is a concurrent dictionary of string. There was a concurrent dictionary of string connection multiplexer, and because it's a static one, per connection string, I should have only one connection multiplexer. All the tenants, all the blogs on weblogs.asp.net, and there are 200 per website. So 200 blogs on a single Orchard setup, so 200 tenants should all are all using the same connection string on purpose. So the same Redis instance. So I expected to have only one connection multiplexer to this Redis instance, and I had about 20 of them instead of one, and this is bad. Did anyone want to make any comment? Sorry. Please interrupt me. So there is an issue here. If I look at the code before the change, can I see the code before the change? Here, let me show the code before the change. File tree, src, Redis module. So the code before the change here. So remember, a static concurrent dictionary indexed by connection string, having a connection multiplexer. This thing needs to be reused all the time for all the web app. Okay, and what it was doing, get connection string is just calling getting the connection string per tenant or for all the tenants. And then get connection for a connection string will do connection multiplexer get or add. It's a concurrent dictionary get or add. So my expectation was that if lots of concurrent calls go to connection multiplexer get or add, it will add one, and the other ones will get the one which have been added. Okay? And I pass a lambda so that it's lazily initialized to create a connection by doing connection multiplexer that connects with the connection string. And my assumption was completely wrong. A concurrent dictionary does not prevent threads from creating this lambda in parallel. So what is happening actually in the concurrent dictionary is that it's thread safe for sure. And once an item is added to the dictionary, the other ones will also get the one added to the dictionary. But this lambda is actually evaluated by all the concurrent threads before it is added to the dictionary. So let's say 10 threads come into this method at the same time. It's possible that the 10 threads will evaluate the lambda get the object, and then lock on the connection on the dictionary, on the concurrent dictionary, to get or add. So 10 connections have been created. It won't keep any reference to it, okay? But the connection has been created. The TCP connection, the socket has been created, so it's there, and it won't be disposed automatically. So I had too many connections. I had many connections which are useless actually. So the solution, there are multiple solutions. One simple solution will be to do a try get, and if there is nothing, then do an actual lock on the connection multiplexer to have only one thread create a connection, add it, and return the result. Another and apparently better solution, simpler to understand, is to have a concurrent dictionary of lazy resources. This way, what we do is the same get or add, but returning a lazy lambda. So the 10 threads will create a lazy, okay, but this lambda will be only executed on the lazy which value has been called on. So only one lazy will be added to the connection multiplexer. 9 other lazy will be created and released at some point. And the one which has been added, when the method is done, it calls value, so I get the actual connection multiplexer, only one. So this is the way the concurrent dictionary should be used. This is the actual recommended pattern from the CLR team, Stefan Tube, who made it. And so it's fine if it was not an IO bound resource, like if it's, I don't know, even a database call, okay, it's a database call, but we can still skip it. The next step now is to look at all the static concurrent dictionary we have in Orchard, and we have many. For instance, in the first level cache, in the cache service, the ICacheManager. If you remember, some of you might remember, we have some bugs open for concurrent issues with the ICacheManager. And there is even a pull request which is using volatile token everywhere in the ICacheManager. I think this is the same issue. There are multiple threads going into the get of the concurrent dictionary, and lots of them say, oh, I need to add the value, because it's not locked actually, correctly. So we need to review wherever you use a concurrent dictionary to take into account that if you pass a lambda, the lambda might be executed by multiple threads.
So, Sébastien, a while back I created a blog post on this where it was about using ICacheManager when you have an expensive factory method and you don't want it called multiple times in parallel. And part of the thing I wanted to do there was to add an extension method on top of ICacheManager, which would do this, which would like wrap the lambda in a lazy and cache that for you for cases when you want it to be synchronized.
That's doable.
Yeah,
I agree now. Now I get the issue. Maybe I didn't read your blog post, or I didn't know you. I don't know.
That was just a few months ago, but yeah.
Oh, sorry. Well, do you have a blog? I didn't know. Yes, so that makes sense. Yes, and the extension will use a lock or whatever.
It will actually wrap the lambda in a lazy and do what you're doing basically.
Good then. Go on. Okay, so this was any other comments about this issue? Thank you. Who posted that, Daniel? Thank you. So next, and this is fixed in 1.9x. So if you use Redis, you can update to that. Fix some unit tests which were wrongly implemented with the TransactionManager thing. What is that? Using master content item to print translation. And then I started fixing the blocking bugs for 1.9.2. One of them was like that if you translate an item, it should use the master content item to model bind the first item. Okay, Nick, you will look at the code and you will agree, I assume. If you look at what you changed when you updated the controller, you will see that you it was using content item, you replaced it by content item translation, but it should still be master content item here. It was just a typo, I'm sure. Look at the code and you will see.
Okay.
This is a nice one from, I think, Jean-Thierry. Let me explain. So Jean-Thierry has been opening some issues and also creating some pull requests for double encoding bugs that have been appearing since we fixed the double encoding, the not single encoding issue we had on 191, on 190 that we fixed for 191. So the idea is that just a reminder, when we call T of something, this something won't be encoded. The parameters in the string you pass will be encoded, but the string that is inside won't be encoded. And T returns an IHTML string, so the result won't be encoded. Okay, it's a localized string which implements IHTML string. So this won't be encoded, which lets us create some links inside a translation. Very useful. And in this case, if you take any page in Orchard and you look at the source code, you will see that the pagers will actually render angle brackets like this without encoding them, which is exactly why, because it won't be encoded. And the browsers are clever enough to display them as angle brackets, okay, and not say it's an opening tag. So, and they are all clever enough to do that. They are very resilient to these kind of issues. So this is why we never saw the issue, but I think Jean-Thierry or someone else was trying to do some parsing, and then it failed the parser because the parser was not as clever as the browsers. So there are many ways to fix that, and I think the correct way to fix it is because it has to be already encoded, and we want to render an angle bracket, then we need to write it this way. So this changes the translations we have to define for that, but this is the correct way, I think, to do it. And there is also this one. Yeah, this was in the views. So we have to change also the views. So it won't be breaking because today it's using directly an angle bracket, and the browser will work fine. But if you want to update your views to use that, that's better. But it's not a breaking change. It's better. Then merge to dev, Daniel's changes, Daniel's own stupidity. What is that? Oh, sorry. It's on the dev branch. What is it?
I should be more precise and say that I reverted the result of my stupidity, not the stupidity itself. It's still there, I think.
Oh, because you pushed in the wrong branch? That was it? That was the issue?
No, it was just, I was doing I was injecting a work context accessor everywhere in order to be able to resolve a component that I could just inject directly instead.
Okay, that makes sense. Drink more coffee, or I don't know. Remove. So what is that? Remove the use namespace. That's good. Remove the use namespace, and I see lots of green. That's weird. Okay, test. Okay, test. Fixed dropping a database table during site reset. Okay, the new feature you implemented apparently fixed some things. Trust you. Rename weirdly named argument. You never know. Okay, this one I agree. Fixed the I registration. Okay. Yeah, this one is common, and you spend 1 hour trying to understand why you don't get the instance. Fixed an issue with side. Okay. Fixed reset again. So the reset feature will work because it's been fixed 5 times. Then I just applied the same pattern we were doing for localizing the keys also in the tag service. Because when I was looking at my Redis instance, I could see lots of things without the tenant name. So that could be conflict, so I fixed it. From a comment this morning from Sipke, apparently, so this is this guy, the Redis cache storage provider, so the business cache based on Redis. He mentioned that here, if there is no cache entry, the deserialization will fail. So we actually need to return default of the item we want to get. This is done. And by the way, in case in the output cache, in case there is an exception in the storage provider, I'm doing a try catch. And if there is an exception, I'm logging the exception and returning like there is nothing in the cache. It happens to me on timeouts with Redis. So it can happen to you also. So I was, okay, let's be safe and try catch the cache storage provider and just make sure that it doesn't break the page. If the cache fails, we don't want to break the rendering of the page. We just say, okay, there is no cache. Let's go on. That's it. Questions? Conclusion. Issues. Milestones. Ew, milestones. No?
Try opening it up in Chrome.
No. Milestone. What's working? What the? That's weird. Well, it doesn't want. Okay, I will try in Chrome. Crap. It was working. Or maybe it was working in Chrome. Doesn't want to work in Chrome. Or maybe I have network issues or computer issues. Can you hear me?
Yes.
See it?
Okay.
It's weird. Can you see my screen? I saw a black flash.
Yeah, it's gone black.
It's gone black, so I have to.
It's all gone black.
Not completely. I see your mouse pointer still.
I had the same issue on Thursday. Let me reshare. I think my graphic drivers have an issue. It should be good now. Doesn't want to. Oh yes, okay. Milestone. Yeah, here it works. Labels. Hi. So I fixed all the blocking issues for shipping, but this one, the content picker search, I will fix it, and then we are good to ship 192.
What was that bug?
The content picker doesn't work for Orchard search. Content picker doesn't work anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's broken. It's because it used to work. Okay. Questions before the demos? I assume you don't see my screen anymore, but that's fine. I will stop presenting. And let's go with Daniel first because he's first on my list and first alphabetically. Okay, Daniel. Please keep in mind we have 2 other demos after.
I will. Can you make me a presenter?
Daniel. Done.
Thank you. Let me know when you can see.
I can, Benedek.
I can see your screen.
Good. So let's start with the Gulp stuff then. Just briefly touch upon what that is. The whole point there is to be able to use in Orchard the Gulp, the framework to do compile of front-end assets like JavaScript and CSS and less and TypeScript and that kind of stuff. It's not really just about compile though, it's more generic than that. It's about essentially just doing automating the stuff that whatever it takes to transform front-end assets from what you want to have checked in and what you want to edit to whatever you want to be loaded by the browser in the end. So that's stuff like compiling less, compiling TypeScript, minification, bundling, auto-prefixing, stuff like that. And it's been in use in the Orchard codebase for a while, in 3 of the modules that just used it up until now. But the trouble there has been that the Gulp stuff has been sort of local to those 3 modules, and because Gulp is based on Node.js and requires a bunch of modules to be loaded in that folder, in the Node modules folder, that also messed with the publishing, and it's sort of cumbersome to have it there because it needs to be ignored from source control and whatnot. So the solution there that I've been thinking about for a while and that's now been implemented is to move all of that stuff up to the solution level, which is what I've done. So now this is on dev. We could be doing this on 1NX because I actually did it on 1NX to get rid of some of the publishing problems that people have been seeing, and then I merged it to dev. But I'm showing you here because I have another demo after this that's going to go on dev. So if you look now in Solution Explorer in Solution Items, there's a new folder called Gulp. And that's where everything resides now. So essentially there's a package JSON that just tells Node what packages it needs to have loaded and installed for the Gulp pipeline to work. And there's a Gulp file which has the Gulp tasks that you can run. And if you now look in Task Runner Explorer, you'll see that before there used to be separate Gulp files for each of these 3 modules that used it. Now all of that is just in one place, so it's on the solution level. And there's the one Gulp file, and it has 3 tasks. And none of those tasks run automatically anymore. So this extension has the ability for you to bind these tasks to various Visual Studio events. Like, for example, when you build, you'd want the Gulp build task to run as well. But from discussions with Sébastien, we've agreed that this should be more or less opt-in, because basically all the results of the Gulp transformation is checked into the repo as well. So you don't really have to do that as part of every build. You need to run this stuff whenever you've changed one of the things that go into the pipeline. So they don't run automatically. It's not too intrusive. If you just open up the code now, if you have this extension, you'll see that it's there, but it won't start by default like it did before. So it's a little smoother.
It's a little question. If we bind the watch, will it start automatically on startup?
Yes.
Okay, so we don't want it.
No. That's what I had before. I had bound it to project open, so I just started watching all the files. But yeah. It slows things down when you don't want to change those stuff. So it's better this way, I think. So there's 3 tasks. There's build, rebuild, and watch, and they do pretty much what you would expect. Build goes through and builds everything regardless of what's changed. Rebuild does that. Build only builds the stuff where the input asset is newer than the output file that it's being compiled into. So that's good for incremental. And then there's watch. And if you run the watch one, is pretty interesting. If you run it, that one just keeps on going until you stop it. And that keeps track of changes to all of the assets that go into the pipeline. So now if I go into the module, for example, let's say Azure Media Services, assets, and I change one of the less files here, like change this to 0.8 and save it, you'll now see that asset file blah 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 was changed, and it's rebuilding the output blah blah. Oh, this is a subtle bug. Actually, it should resolve that. It's just the message is wrong, but the result is correct. So if you want to work if you're sort of in a workflow where you want to make rapid, repeated changes to some of these files, and you want to be able to just refresh your browser and see the result, this would be a good thing to have running. Otherwise, you can just do like build or rebuild whenever you want. And so the way that this works, the Gulp file is on the solution level, as I mentioned, but what it does is it drills down into a few locations in the source code to harvest whatever files need to go into the pipeline. And the way that it does this is through this glob here. So it looks under Orchard.Web, either in core or modules or themes, and any subfolder and any file in any subfolder that's named assets.json. So that's the way that you as a module or theme opt into this process if you want to contribute assets into this pipeline and have them transformed and put back into your module. So to look at an example of this, let's take a look at the layout module. The three modules that use this now are Azure Media Services, Dynamic Forms, and Layouts. And the plan is to make more modules participate in this over time, of course. So if we look in Layouts now, there is a file in the root that's called assets.json, and that's basically all you need to do to opt in and participate in this workflow. So that has a specific syntax. So the way it's structured is it's basically an array of one or more asset groups, I call them. And an asset group is a bunch of inputs and an output. So here's how you specify the bundling that you can do with this. So here, for example, I want all of these less files compiled and put through the pipeline, and they go out into this CSS file under styles. And sort of a good convention to follow here is to put the input stuff under assets and the output under styles and scripts, so that you don't mix them up. I think that keeps it tidy. It's not required. You can certainly keep them in the same folder, like keep everything in styles if you want, but I think this is like a good convention to follow. And the way that this works is you can basically, the pipeline is smart enough to figure out what to do based on the input extension of the input files. So anything that can be transformed into a CSS file in the end can go into a group that outputs a CSS file. So you can mix less files in CSS in the same group, and they'll all get processed appropriately and bundled and put into this one. The same goes for TypeScript and JavaScript. Those can be mixed into the same group as well. And if you mix in an input file of a type that is not compatible with the output type, it'll just throw an error, and you'll see that in the window. And then there's a special thing you can do also, which I should point out. If we look at Azure Media Services, it does this. It's assets.json. So you can specify these inputs as globs too, which will resolve into all of the files that match. And then if you want to process all of these, but you don't want to bundle them into the same output, you basically want each input resulting from this wildcard to have its own output, you can use the special @ syntax in the output. So that just means take whatever file name was here, use it here, and just create multiple outputs. That's kind of convenient for cases where you have a lot of files and you want them all processed the same way and just named accordingly in the output. So just let's look quickly at what the pipeline does, the different steps that it performs on CSS and JavaScript respectively. So one thing is that it does source maps. So whatever assets you put into it, and whatever transformations it does, it makes sure that it retains the mappings between the output and the input. So in the non-minified outputs, there will be source map data added to the end of the file, which is convenient if you're debugging in Chrome, for example, which has support for this. And then it actually shows you the less file and the line in the less file where each property came from. That's pretty convenient. It does, if it's a less file, it compiles it. It concatenates does the bundling, and it also does auto prefixing. So you no longer have to worry about putting browser prefixes, like vendor-specific prefixes, in your less or CSS files. This plugin will take care of that for you. You can configure it to, like, for how many versions back that it should do it, and I just configured it to the last 2 versions of every browser. I think that's a reasonable.
Does it mean we have to know about the prefixing when we declare the resources?
No, you don't.
I mean, in the resource manager, the resource file.
No, you just whatever. I should clarify probably, but whatever
What is
output,
a prefix, yeah?
whatever output gets produced here, that's what you base your resource manifest on. You don't need to know anything about that.
And the prefix has nothing to do with the file name. It's something else.
No, it's
Okay.
like vendor prefixes for CSS properties. You know, like dash ms dash for something that.
Okay, sorry. Okay, good.
Yeah, and then what else? Yeah, and then it does the minification and produces an appropriate min file. So that's also something that we no longer have to do with this. We don't have to check in, minified versions of everything. It'll just get minified as part of this pipeline. So that's for less than CSS. If we look at JavaScript, pretty much the same. It does source maps too. If it's a TypeScript file, it compiles it with the TypeScript compiler, which for this case you need to have installed on your machine. And bundling, as I said, and for some reason it's called uglify with JavaScript instead of minify, but it does the same thing. It creates a minified version and then puts the output in the output folder that you specified. And that's pretty much it. And if you don't, like, this can be used by any module that is included in the solution. So if, like, you can't use it for modules that you just ship separately as NuGet packages, for example. Well, you can use it to build them, obviously, if you build them in the context of the Orchard code base. But you can use it from out-of-box modules as well as custom modules, as long as they're just part of the solution.
Okay, good. So one comment I took a note. We need to add the assets.json file in the new module creation. So when we create a new module, we have a file already. And if possible, and I know it's possible, with the documentation as comments in the file. So when we open the file, we know what to type. There is a skeleton and what we can type, like star.ts, bundles, things like that.
Mm.
I will create an issue for that. We need that.
That would be good, yeah.
So next.
Okay, no other questions?
Another question. I don't know if you answered that. Which branch has that?
This stuff has gone into 1.9x.
Everything is in 1.9x already.
Everything that you've seen is in 1.9x, yes.
Ooh. Great.
And because it's really not, once it's all compiled, it's the same thing that we have already. It's only like the edit process that's changed. And I did it in 1.9x because that's where people have been experiencing problems, most of them.
Yeah. Gustavo and myself, for instance, complaining about that.
Yeah. So, and the reason why that happened is before, so the processing, when you publish, usually the publish goes from here, from Orchard.Web, and everything underneath it. But now, if we look at the solution structure, the way it looks now is that, so this part is completely untouched by all of this. And the stuff that Gulp requires to do the Gulp processing is one level up in the folder structure.
Good.
Yeah. And it's not repeated in every module that uses it, which is a good thing too. Yeah, so if you don't do anything, if you don't opt out into this in a module by creating an assets.json file, you can keep doing what you've always done. So it's completely opt-in. Good. Next thing I wanted to show was, let's see, the recipes result command. Yeah, so, quick one. Before, when you do either execute a recipe or execute setup from the command line, actually before, this message used to say, the site was successfully set up with this recipe with this name, but it was a complete lie, because the only thing that this method does is just to queue up the recipe and then it returns. So at this point, you don't really know if the recipe executed or not, because it's not going to execute until this method exits and you get to the end of the request context. So I changed this message to begin with to be more to the point, truthful. The setup was started and it has a specific execution ID, and you can use the recipes result command to check the result of that execution at a later stage if you want. And that's the command I wanted to demo. So I have the command line running. So I have multi-tenancy set up in this one. So if we just run this command.
We should make multi-tenancy enabled by default all the time.
Yeah, maybe. So just set up a test tenant based on the blog's recipe. I'll just run. Oh, crap. Okay, let me just go and delete that database.
Is that Paul on your left?
Sorry?
Is that Paul on your left?
That's Chris that just
Okay,
sat
that's
down with a
Paul.
piece of pizza. Yeah, through my camera.
Paul is hi, Paul. I see your hand waving.
There. Okay, should be good now. Set up. Ah, what now? Okay, let me exit. Okay, crap. Bad demo. I don't know what I did here to.
Good. Next one. Okay.
Mess this up.
This way we
Yeah.
have a new one next week.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, the next one sort of builds on this one, but the last thing was that in a recipe now, when you run the setup command and it gives you an execution ID, that's good then because you can go and use this one to query for the result of it and see what it did. But what if you have a situation where you have one recipe that executes another? This is common where you want to factor your recipes and like factor out some common things and have, for example, environment-specific stuff in specific recipes that all call a common one to create all the content, for example. Very common in automation scenarios. So the way that you used to do this before was using the commands step. So that you can execute arbitrary commands on the command line, basically. And there's a command to execute another recipe, which you can do from the end of your first recipe. Problem with this one is that it creates a completely separate execution ID. So whatever execution ID you get back from this one will only be used to execute this outer one. And whatever happens in this one, you won't find out about unless you also somehow know about that execution ID, which you won't. So we changed this around a bit. So now you can do, instead of this command, we introduced a dedicated step for this, which is the recipes step, which is more strongly typed. So you can now do this, like specify a bunch of recipes with using their modules and their names that should get executed as part of this one. And the nice thing about this one is it just schedules them as part of the existing execution ID, so that when you later call recipe results, you get to see all of it, including all the actions steps that were performed by this recipe. So that's pretty convenient for automation scenarios too. So now, for example, let me show you an example of the output of this. So this is Octopus Deploy. It's the place where we've used all of this automation to deploy sites automatically on every commit, basically. So if we look here at the output of the post-deploy PowerShell script, which is what uses all of this stuff, it does a reset of the tenant, and then it does the setup with the specific recipe, and it gives you back an execution ID. And the PowerShell script parses this one out and then calls recipe's result with that execution ID. And then you can see all of it being printed here. So these first few steps are from the environment-specific recipe, and these steps are from the main one that gets called by the first one. And then you can just see here that everything went well. And if there's an error in any of the steps, you can see that in the output here. And then the deploy would fail, and you would get notified. Yeah, that's it. That's the demos I had.
I'd like to see what Bede Gaming is doing with that, because you mentioned multi-tenancy, creating sites automatically.
Yeah, it's very sexy stuff, actually. I haven't seen anyone go as far in automating Orchard CI as Bede has done. They're really on the front line of that. Paul would be happy to demo it at some point, I'm sure. Might even be a harvest talk in there somewhere, right? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. I noted.
I hope we can do a harvest talk, assuming I can attend.
Well, it's so cheap. You can. It's direct. London to Alicante. $50. Boom. Bring a tent. Sleep on the beach. Happy.
Yeah, as long as I can code for my project in between.
Okay. Next. So, thank you, Daniel. Awesome. Jamie was asking if it was recorded. Yes, we record. Benedek records all the meetings all the time and put them on YouTube. Now we have 8 minutes plus. We have Massa and Paul to demo. Can I know, Massa and Paul, what you have to demo? Just to, if we have to make a choice, because I would not like to give one of you only 1 minute.
Mine could take 1 minute or 2 minutes. It's a really, really small demo. It's...
Okay, let's start with you then, and then finish with Massa.
Okay, right.
Your presenter.
Present. Now, which screen is it going to try and give me? Okay. Okay, let me know if you can see what's coming up.
I can.
There we go.
Yep. Benedek?
Okay.
Yeah, I can see
Wait
your
for
screen.
Benedek.
Okay, cool. So all this is a bit of a reskin of the back office section of Orchard. So we've taken a few bits out of the book of some other fairly popular sites. So we've enlarged all the icons quite a lot, improved the UI for things like going through settings and navigation. You can collapse your menu to bring on more space. We've actually used this as a back office tool to deliver some of our products to our power users. So we've actually got very particular sections that we've actually put in. So we've restyled quite a lot of stuff to give it a fairly bootstrap style theme. It's, I guess, quite larger text, larger chunky text, better icons for stuff. The tabs are a little bit more, I don't know, kind of
Tabby.
tabby, more tab-like. I mean, that's all that we've really been doing. It's a reasonably comprehensive skin, but we haven't touched every single screen in the back office for Orchard because we haven't needed to touch all of them. But it's a bit more of a kind of refined skin that allows a bit more extension, I think. I don't know, Sipka, that you kind of mentioned that you liked quite a lot. I don't know if there's another bit that you wanted me specifically to show from this.
Are the tabs the Orchard tabs?
It's the normal Orchard stuff, so you add a navigation menu thing.
Can you open the modules page or the ones that we know, like modules,
Yep.
navigation, just to see?
Let's see, modules. So some of it we haven't fully kind of redone, but
Okay, same thing, which is expected.
yeah, same thing. Some is a bit cleaner to read, but obviously kind of we weren't really focusing particularly on these screens, but mostly the restyling is a bit cleaner cleaner on the eyes. I think I've got it on yeah, that's normal size actually, the way we've got it set at the moment.
So I just wanted to see this one because I assume you didn't touch the view for this one, just to see how compatible it is with the current state of the views that people create. And aliases, because it's got a table. Can you click on aliases, please?
On which one, sorry?
Aliases.
Aliases, yep. Got it. Oh, that's an interesting little line that seems to come up there. I don't know why that line comes up actually.
Well, that's part of the adaptation
It must be a
that needs to
second.
be.
Yeah. Must be two rows or something on that. So yeah, kind of just button coloring, just clean up stuff. Really, it's nothing amazingly special. Just people have spent a bit of work on the styling. We're actually looking at redoing some of the features screen, just because we're talking about it. Kind of that might be something that changes reasonably soon for us, to be a bit easier to manage, because we have a few features.
Yeah, but you don't. So the only drawback I see here is that you don't care about compatibility with existing Orchard. So when you reskin, you can just go to the view and reskin for your CSS. The approach we have in the branch from Jasmin is that we have first an adapter CSS, which will. So we have the nice CSS like you have, but we also have an adapter CSS which will make the current tagging good looking in with the new CSS.
Yeah, we haven't spent any time.
This one you don't care, because you can just change the view to have the nice looking CSS by default, and you don't care about the existing modules so little. But still, there is some work here, so we'll have to look to see with Jasmin. I didn't see him today.
We actually find one of them.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, we actually find one of the most useful bits of Orchard to us is this back office interface where we add all these menus and tabs, because it's allowed us to develop an entire product suite in the back office of Orchard.
This is what Azure API Management is also doing, using just the back office. Good.
That's all.
So Jasmine, we have some help. Good, thank you. Masa, your turn.
Yes. So you think I have time?
So it's up to you. If you want more time next week, we are okay with that.
How long do I have now? 2 minutes?
No, you have 10 minutes. Easy.
10 minutes. So it's, I think better if we do it today. So
okay.
Yeah. So
feel free to share screen. Who are you, Masa? We don't know you.
Well, I'm Masa. I live and work in Sweden.
Hey, Daniel.
I'm here now with
Daniel's
friend, and here now in Bede, helping Sipke and Daniel. Yeah, I think that's all.
The newest team member of iDeliverable.
So you knew each other. I didn't know. Sorry. When I say you have a friend, I mean, what a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence, yeah. The only two people in Sweden doing Orchard.
Maybe.
Let me know if you can see.
Yes, we can. Vendek. We're waiting for Vendek.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can see. Thanks.
Okay, so what I'm going to demo is mainly the issue was to be able to import and export aliases. And in order to do that, we had to somehow distinguish aliases that are custom and from those that are made, for example, by other route. And so we introduced a new field called isManaged, so that the custom aliases are not managed. Therefore, in the current implementation, they could be deleted, added, deleted, or edited. But as you see here in this tab, these are the list of custom aliases, and then we have the managed aliases, such as like the home page, and so. So what I'm gonna do now, just create an alias like this one, for example, and well, here, as you can see now, it could be edited and deleted, of course, and also all these bulk actions can be applied on it. And for example, if you have this one, click on this, or here.
You can minimize that bar at the top of the screen if it bothers you.
Yeah, I think
the pin.
Okay, the pin here. Yeah. What? Okay, never mind. So, as you can see here, I use the alias to get into the logon page, to login page, and well, I think that's mostly it. Besides that, in the UI, you can see that in the managed part, we don't have anything like filters or actions on the managed. Basically, we decided, or we thought that it's best if these are not possible to be edited or deleted from the UI. And then if we go to import and export now, you can see aliases here. If I export my aliases, for example, only aliases, And if I go back here, remove the one that we already have, and try to import.
Can you show the export file?
Oh, sure. Maybe I can show it from here. Wait, what happened? Okay, so the XML actually looks like this: aliases, and for each alias we have the path and a list of route values. So by adding that is managed field in this XML, we will only see the custom aliases. And no. Oh, okay, yeah. So if I import it back again, I'll go to aliases. Let me see it here, and oh, the pin doesn't work. And yeah, we can. So one question was that if you think that it's a good way to separate the aliases into managed and unmanaged, and that the managed ones cannot be modified.
That's okay. I think it's good. There is no disadvantage.
Do you think managed ones should be called content ones or something? I'm not sure managed is the right term.
Or the way that we thought there was that we wanted a term that describes the fact that these aliases are completely handled by somewhere else in the code. So in the case of autoroute, for example, the autoroute part takes care of creating it, deleting it, changing it, importing it, exporting it, all is handled. So that's sort of how we came up with the term of a managed alias. It's managed elsewhere in the system, if you will.
Okay. I just because reading those, I like the separation. I'm not sure the names of the tabs are right. That's all. But I like the separation. That's pretty cool.
Good.
Well, yeah.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Questions? News on the website for Harvest? Anyone? Sultan is not here. Benedict, do you know? Antoine?
I don't have any updates.
Okay, I'll ping Zoltan then. And then Sergio is not here either. Okay, good. Then, thanks everyone. See you on Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Cool.
And we'll have lots of new documentation because Jamie and Derek are willing to help. Well, that's what I got from them.
Hey, are the Thursday calls open like these, or?
Correct, exactly. Same URL, same link, same hour, just on Thursday.
Awesome. Okay.
But we talk about bug triage, so we look over the issues and pull requests, give comments and pull requests, and if you have issues and bugs, and you are present, then we take them into account in priority.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Who was that?
Can I borrow you for 2 secs after?
Me?
Yeah.
That was Gustavo. Sorry.
After the meeting.
Nick? Me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers, guys.